I'd like to welcome everybody to our second webinar in our Tech Tuesday series. One is on why your SaaS platform needs a cloud backup solution. I am here. My name is Michael Cujo, owner of Sagewood Technical Services, and with my long-suffering co-host Heather Caparasso.
Hey, Michael, how are you doing today?
Doing quite well. It is way warmer than last time we did this. I know last time I was complaining about the weather because it was quite cold, like we were in a deep freeze, and it's about, I would say 20 degrees warmer this time around than last time. So I'm a happy camper.
It might actually be colder here than it was the last time we spoke, but that's okay. We'll switch off.
Well, I'm very much hoping that the April webinar I end up doing from Vegas, which will be the warmest I've been in probably a couple of years.
Wow.
So look forward to that. Anyway, I guess we can get started. I'll let you do the little intros and such like that, and then we'll step right into this.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, a couple little housekeeping things here. If anyone has any questions, you can always send an email to myself or Michael, and we'll get it to the right place. I work for Kaseya. I came from the TrueMethod side of things, and I'm in the Powered Services team now. So there's a lot of expertise in there that I can provide for you. So Heather@TrueMethods.com. And Michael, of course, is Mike@SagewoodTech.ca. So if you have any questions for us, you can always send us an email, and we would love to, have a chat with you. I can be on the chat too, if that would be helpful, and see what Sagewood can do for you.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about a few different things, all related to the cloud and the cloud backup. So we're going to talk and just kind of go a little bit over what is a cloud backup and what is the cloud, why you need a backup solution for your cloud, practical steps for your SaaS vendor backup, so your SaaS vendor backup, and how Sagewood can help protect your data. So let's jump right on into this. And we'll start off with, what is a cloud backup? How does it work? So a couple things to note about cloud backup. And a lot of people, the first thing they ask me is, what is the cloud? Like, what is it really? I mean, we call it a cloud because, yeah, it's that thing out there somewhere. And a lot of people really don't know what it is. And to put it as absolutely simple as possible, cloud is simply somebody else's computer that you're connecting to. Now, that computer may be a server computer or a server farm or a data center, but at its heart, what it is just you putting your data on someone else's computer. In this case, that somebody is usually Microsoft or Google Workplace, but that at heart is essentially what it is. And that's one of the reasons why you do need a cloud backup, because again, you're trusting somebody else with your data. So cloud backup is basically the process of taking that data that you have entrusted to somebody else on their computer, on their servers, and just making sure that it's somewhere else as well. Just like we back up on our computers, right? We've been telling people for decades now, have a backup on your computers. We got into servers and we said, have a backup of your servers. Now that we're in the cloud, again, all the cloud is another computer. It's another server, and that server also needs backup. And you can choose what data to back up and how often and what that looks like and all those other things. But the real thing here is, just like backing up your computer, just like backing up your Office server, your cloud server needs to be backed up as well.
And we know this sounds scary, putting your stuff on someone else's computer, but they're beholden to a lot of different laws. You are paying them for this service. They have backups of their own. And physical backups, a lot of people like to have those, physical, external hard drive type things. It's just not enough for this this type of information, the volume of information that we have now. And so these things that kind of sound scary, it sounds counterintuitive to put your stuff on somebody else's computer, but this is what the best practice is for how today's world works. And there's very secure backup solutions that we have for you guys here at Sagewood.
Sure. And we go with the same principle as we do when we have our data physically. And that's the concept of 3, 2, 1, right? You want to have 3 copies of your data. You want to have them in 2 different places and at least one of them off premise, which means outside, right? And the same thing with your cloud data. You want to have at least 3 copies of it, right? You want to have it in 2 different places, and you want it to be somewhere that isn't in that cloud environment, that you have it there as it is. So why do you need a backup solution if your data is already in the cloud? And I think we alluded to this a little bit, is that your data is on somebody else's computer, right? But more than that, organizations lose their SaaS data daily, right? And it's typically not because of a hack or whatever not. Oftentimes it's because of human error, right? It's because somebody deleted something by accident and so on and so forth, and then you can't find it. You can't assume that it's going to last forever. Again, Microsoft, Google, they are companies. Right now, we couldn't imagine living our lives and doing our businesses without those companies, but they are just companies and they can go away, right? That's not beyond the realm of possibility. So you want to have your backup plan. You want to make sure that you have your backup plan just in case, right? Because almost half of IT leaders acknowledge that SaaS backup is actually critical to preventing loss of data, right? And how do we lose our data in the cloud? Well, easy. Sometimes it's illegitimate deletion, sometimes it's legitimate deletion. I tell a story. Recently, I had a client, and they had their data in Microsoft. They thought it was very, very safe, and they deleted something from a client's folder structure that they decided they didn't need. It was no longer needed, so they got rid of it. Well, about 3 months later, they decided actually they do need it. Well, the problem was they went back to Microsoft, figuring that it was still there, and it was past the time. So Microsoft does have a recycling bin, just like your computer has a recycling bin, but it only keeps things for a certain amount of time. And the time had passed, so it wasn't in the recycling bin. It wasn't anywhere. It was lost. Now, they, on their own time, went to Microsoft to say, "Where is my stuff? I thought you backed it up." And we're going to go into this in a little bit, but there are some portions of backup that are definitely Microsoft's responsibility, and there are some portions that are not. And this is one of them, right? So illegitimate deletion, malicious insider, somebody doing things to your data on purpose. Hackers and external hackers or actors. You can get malware. If malware is on your computer, it can actually propagate into your cloud data as well. Human error and mistakes. Like I said, we had a person who just literally deleted something they thought they didn't need. Suddenly later on, they realized they need it. And of course, there can be programmatic sync errors, such like that, which is basically you do something on your computer, you think it has synchronized to the cloud, and it actually didn't. So you want to make sure that all of those things are covered off, and having a good, robust backup is definitely the way to do it.
I like to tell this this story as well. It's, years ago, before backing up in the cloud was like a thing that everybody did all the time. Apparently, Toy Story 2 was being worked on at Pixar, and somebody accidentally deleted it off of like the company server, and it was just it was just gone. All of it was just gone. And the only reason that they weren't 2 years behind in production is because one of their animators happened to be on maternity leave, and she had downloaded a copy of the movie to work on while she was on maternity leave, and that was the copy they had to use to upload it back into the entire system.
And like this illustrates, I mean, innocent mistakes. can have really big knock-on effects down the road. And cloud is no different, right? The cloud, like I said, it's not something magical, right? It's literally just a computer or a server somewhere else. So it has the same kind of foibles as every other computer, every other server has. The only difference with it is it's somewhere else. So let's do some myth busting. I'll be Jamie. You can be Adam, or should we switch it?
I mean,
I
go
used
ahead.
I used to love the show Mythbusters, and they used to go around busting like real myths. But
Yeah.
here's some three common cloud backup myths that I think we need to bust and make sure are right out there. So myth number one, that a robust backup is included in your cloud back form
Is a big
or
one.
your cloud platform. Big
Nope.
myth, big myth. And here's the truth. Nope. Right? I mean, I could leave it at that, but let's explain it a little bit, right? And yes, there are some protections at some levels for your data, but the backup that is included in your cloud platform is in the case of anything that has happened due to the fault of the service provider. So Microsoft uses backups to protect themselves. They do not use backups to protect you. So myth number two, backups protect me against ransomware. Nope, sorry. Uh, as I mentioned actually just a little bit before, if you get ransomware on your computer, it can definitely propagate up into your cloud structures as well. If you were here for our last webinar, we did talk a little bit more about ransomware, and what ransomware does is it goes through your files and your computers and it encrypts them. It makes them unreadable, but the files themselves are still technically there. So when you go onto your computer, you're going to see a file that says my document.doc, and then they'll usually have some sort of other extension tagged onto it, dot ransomware, let's say, or whatever. Now, if your cloud solution is backing up your computer or your server that has been hit by ransomware, it is backing up those files and it is propagating those files up into the cloud, and those become your files there as well. So while the cloud is technically a safer place, it does not protect you against ransomware attacks or any other type of attack. And myth number three, any backup solution will do because all backups are the same. Sorry.
So, Mike, can I tell you, over the weekend, I happened to be in the area I live in New Jersey, outside of Philadelphia, and I happen to be in a neighborhood that I know has this really good bread store. I am Italian. I love my bread. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a specific detour to go to this bread store because I know this bread is the best bread that I'm going to get on this side of the bridge. So either New York or Philadelphia might have better bread, but probably not. And so I made that special trip because I happen to be sort of close to that neighborhood. And that's the only bread that's going to do when I'm in the mood for that particular bread. And it's the same with the backup solutions, except it's not something to be in the mood for. It's just something that there are things that are going to be better and worse as far as backup solutions are concerned.
Sure. And I mean, as you know, I mean, there's a big difference between, market store, you guys got Walgreens, right?
Yep.
That's your kind of like super, or Walmart. There's a big difference between the loaf of bread you pick up from Walmart and the loaf of bread that you pick up from a specialty store, right? The ingredients are going to be different. They're going to be baked with, a different sense of care and attention. And that is exactly the same thing with backup solutions, right? There will be backup solutions that are various levels of robustness. Is that the polite way of saying it?
Yeah.
There are some that will be very robust and make sure that, and here's some big things that you need to think about for your backup. Number one, how are you going to access that backup? How quickly are you going to be able to get your files back to your computer so that you can get working again? Um, how far back do those backups go? Right, is a big one, because if your backups only go back a month, let's say, and you need to go back 3 months, then your backup is useless. So there are definitely some big things. And that biggie one, how easy is it to get your data from that backup? I worked for another MSP years ago, and they worked with some law firms. And one law firm, they thought that they had a really good backup. I won't tell you the backup company that it was, but this company ended up getting hit by ransomware, and the ransomware took down their system. This was a firm with about, I want to say, 50 or so, 30 to 50 lawyers, so a big firm, and they were brought to their knees. And the pain that it took us to get to their backups and get their backups into a state where we could re-download it to their servers after having been formatted and then propagate that back out literally took us weeks. This was weeks of this law firm being down and not being able to work, not to be able to function. That meant lost time, that meant lost revenue, that meant court dates that had to be delayed or and such like that. It was a massive, massive thing. And thank goodness that they actually had a backup. That was the saving grace. But it was so difficult to get that information back into their working and their production servers that it cost literally probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of lost time, lost income. Flash forward to today, we use different products. The products that we use are actually from a company called Datto. And one of the things they talk about actually is not just being a backup solution. They talk about being a business continuity and a disaster recovery service. And what that means is that we are able to get you from disaster to recovered in the minimum amount of time. In many cases, that's hours, not days.
Or
The way we work, or weeks, yeah. Right. The way we work with our backups is they are live, they are ready, and they are indefinite. And what indefinite means is if you deleted something 6 months ago, we can go to the backup from 7 months ago and still find it. If it was something from a year ago, we can still find it. 2 years, no problem, because we're not deleting those backups. And this is one of the big difference between kind of the less robust solutions and the more robust solutions is Datto is not worried about the amount of space on their servers that is being taken up with these backups and such like that, because they know that they are so mission critical to companies, right? Whereas some of the different players, they have limits on how much data they are keeping. So they are not able to keep 4, 5, 6 months, a year or more worth of your data. And what that means on a practical level is if you've got, some urgent reason to need data that is 6 months old, depending on your backup solution, you might not be able to access that. You're not going to be able to get it from Microsoft and or Google Workspace because they do not keep your information that long. Like I mentioned, they've got a recycle bin, and that's the best they've got. Right? Once that recycle bin is emptied out, usually 60 days, that information is gone. So if your backup isn't taking that from you, you could be SOL.
Mike, who is responsible for recovering our lost data?
That is a fabulous question. I'm glad you asked. Let's answer that question. It's like you knew what was coming up next.
I'm clairvoyant.
For sure. And the answer to the question is there's sort of a shared responsibility, right? And like I mentioned before, Microsoft does have backups, and same with Google. But those backups are there to protect them for their responsibilities. So to split it out real simply, vendors' responsibility, so Microsoft, Google's, even Workforce or whoever you've got your data with, their responsibility is things like hardware failure, software failure. If your data center is in Florida, maybe it goes down because of a hurricane, right? Power outages, deletion requests. Those things are the vendor's responsibility, and they have backups for that, right? Those backups, again, are not indefinite backups, but they are keeping backups for their responsibility. They do not keep backups in the case of things that are your responsibility. So human error, like I said before, you delete a file for a client that you think you don't need. 3 months later, you realize you do need it. They do not keep backups for that. Programmatic errors. So if you're using the cloud to take information from your computer or from your servers automatically and put them up there is no backup in the case that fails. Malicious insider activity. You've got a disgruntled employee, they start deleting stuff off the cloud or off your servers and such like that. Again, Microsoft does not have backups for those eventualities. Hackers, ransomware, viruses, same thing. They do not have backups for that. In fact, in some cases, it is your responsibility to ensure that their infrastructure is safe from ransomware and viruses. And if you have brought ransomware and viruses onto their environment, you may actually be liable.
Never a good word.
Those never. I do not want to be liable to Microsoft. Thank you very much. So those are the things. That's kind of the differentiating between their responsibility and yours. And you can see from that if you don't have your own backup, in the case of human mistakes or anything like that, you could actually end up not having the data that you think you have when you need it. So what are your favorite cloud-based apps saying? Well, this is what Microsoft says, and we've got some links and we can throw them in the chat as we go through them. But with Microsoft, they say it's your data, you own it, you control it. That is very nice speak for saying Microsoft's view on your data is they're hands off. They are hosting it for you. It is there for you. And unless something happens on their side, they're not touching it. Right? I'll actually put that in the chat later. We will, Salesforce, they say that they recommend that you use a partner backup solution that can be found on their App Exchange. So we can help you with that if you are using something like Salesforce. And again, it's their way of saying, look, if something happens to the data because of us, we will fix you. If something happens to your data because of you, then it was your job to make sure you had a backup solution. And here's Google. Google says, to put it simply, the data that companies, schools, and government agencies put onto our systems are theirs. Again, what are they saying? They're saying, hands off. That's your stuff. So you want to be sure that no matter where you're putting your data, whether it's on your own computer, whether it's on your own server in-house, or whether it's on a cloud server, that you have your data protected. Big, big thing. So let's look at some practical steps for protecting your SaaS data, for getting back, sort of making sure you're backed up. So a couple of things you want to do. Number one, want to set your expectations. You want to know what you're getting. You want to read through your vendor agreement. You want to read through those terms and conditions, and you need to understand what backups are baked into your cloud platform. So again, from Microsoft, from Google, they are very clear in those end user license agreements that you click on and didn't read. They spell out very clearly what their responsibilities are and what your responsibilities are. So make sure you know, and make sure you are clear on whose responsibility is who. You want to fine tune your backup. This is a biggie. Backup is not a set it and forget it type of thing. As your company changes, as your circumstance changes, your backup requirements are going to change too. So just like tuning up a sports car, you want to make sure that your backup is fine-tuned as well. And that may be little things like, okay, stuff in this folder, in this area only needs to be backed up for 6 months. Stuff in this area and this stuff has to be backed up indefinitely, or at least the 7 years that many government agencies require. Right? So you want to make sure that your backups are fine-tuned in such a way that they are not wasting space and making it more difficult for you to find what you need down the road, but are also retaining what you need for the time that you need it. Oh, you want to test your backup regularly. I cannot stress this enough. Testing regularly. If I step back to that law firm that I was talking about before, if they had tested their backup solution, probably even once, they would have realized the difficulties in getting their data from that backup back into a useful format, and they probably would have switched long before anything happened. But because they bought the solution, they tossed their data there, they knew it was backing up, and they figured that was good, that ended up being their downfall. And of course, you want to stay up to date on the security landscape. That is one of the reasons why our first webinar was on exactly that, the security landscape, because knowing what's coming up, knowing what could be out there is always going to be your first defense on anything else, making sure that your data is safe, your cloud data is safe, all that kind of stuff, just knowing what's out there.
And one of the ways that Sagewood can help with this is, like, if you guys don't know what you don't know about the security landscape, about the things you should be doing, or about what your backup does, that's when you talk to your MSP provider. That's when you talk to Mike at Sagewood to see, what's going on and the things that you need to know as a business owner, as a manager, as an employee, to make sure that everything kind of stays running the way that it should.
Exactly. And I mean, as business owners, you can't know everything. Right? And it's not your job to know everything, right? We know as business owners, one of the biggest things that we do is we surround ourselves with people that are smarter than ourselves, right? And this is one of the areas that you can do that. We don't expect you to be sitting there online looking up tech threats and what's the latest one and so on and so forth. You don't have to do that. Why? Because I do, and I enjoy it, to be perfectly honest. You've got your business to run. You've got a lot of things to know about that. Don't make the threat landscape one of those things when you can have somebody that is in your sphere that can do that for you. So how does Sagewood, or how can Sagewood help protect your data? This is the part I like talking about. So what do we offer? Just plain and simple. We can help you with your on-site backups. And again, even though we have the cloud, if you have got data on a server or on a computer, you want to have some on-site backup of that data as well. We can help you with your cloud backups. Again, we work with great vendors that are able to bring all of your data and bring it more into a unified, this is where all your data is, this is how we can get at it at all times so that you can see the safety of your data at all points. We offer full BCDR, as I mentioned, that stands for backup, business continuity and disaster recovery services. So that means if the worst happens to your computer, you get a ransomware or something like that, with Sagewood, we are going to walk you through right from that initial thing happening all the way through to being back up and fully running. And we're going to take that up and we're going to do that as quickly and as efficiently as possible because we've got policies and procedures in place exactly for that. We're going to make sure that your backups are compliant. And I'm talking to you, healthcare providers. I'm talking to you, law firms. I'm talking to you, accountants and such like that. Your backups need to be compliant just as much as your live data does. Okay. And we offer full support, right? As we mentioned, we are a full managed service provider. That means that there is nothing in the tech world that you can throw our way that we cannot handle for you. If you've got a special project, if you've got something in your mind, if you need to replace all your computers with brand new ones, you're thinking from switching from Dell to Lenovo or from P to Mac, we can help you out with those. We've got vendor relationships with pretty well every vendor. So we're able to get you great deals. We're able to help you out through whatever your business needs are. I will note as well that for those who are non-governmental organizations, nonprofits and stuff like that, we do also offer discounts for you guys as well. Plus, we do those regular backup checks. We make sure those are happening at least once a quarter so that you can have peace of mind that your data is safe and that it's easily accessible. We do IRPs. We create incident response plans just for you so that you know what has to happen in the case of an emergency and we know what we're going to do for you. Again, fully managed IT services. So we've got your back within any situation. Of course, we take care of business cybersecurity. So here is today's freebie. And it is a freebie for me to you. It's going to cost you nothing. And in fact, it's going to get you a lunch. How about that? This week or this month, I am offering a full cloud security assessment. What that means is we're going to check your backup and your data security and integrity. We're going to do a report for you and suggest some improvements. And we're going to help you to implement changes to ensure your data is secure. If you want that, and as a by-the-by, we'll do it over lunch. Lunch is on me. Then all you have to do is answer this poll. Would you like free lunch from Mike? So I'm going to put that poll up right now. And we'll give a couple of seconds here for people to answer.
And I can guarantee you that if you choose to meet with Mike, I think that's a great decision as somebody else who is in this IT technical sphere here. And I guarantee you're going to come away from this lunch not only with some free food, but with more understanding of your business, with something that you can think about and use immediately, with something that is going to be helpful and absolutely worth your time. My recommendation would be to work with Mike, but even if you don't, you're going to come away with such an educational conversation. There's really no downside in meeting with him and just hearing what he has to say.
For sure. And like you said, I mean, most of the people that we meet with, they end up learning something. Even if we don't do business, even if we don't end up signing a contract or anything like that, typically they come off with some sort of thing, some little nugget that they can take back to their business and make it a little bit better. And that is 100% one of the main things that brightens my day. I love being able to help businesses. I wish I could do every business and provide services for them all for free. Unfortunately, I also like food and heat, and that's one of the main reasons that I have to charge. But I am always happy and always willing to have a lunch, have a chat, and provide advice, consultations, or anything like that. And 9 times out of 10, the lunch is going to be on me. You're not going to pay a thing. And lots more. Awesome. So I will close that poll now. If there are any questions that have popped up in chat, we'll answer those. And otherwise, we will call today a day.
Yeah, I think this is one of those topics that I think a lot of people don't sort of realize is a thing, because they assume that Microsoft or Google has their back. And so it's really good to get that education out there to make sure that people know, not to scare anybody, but we've got to be prepared, right? Because just like there's people whose everyday job is to try and make others' lives better and help make these computers work and help things run the way it's supposed to run, there's just as many people whose job it is every day to try and thwart that and to try and steal your information and make your day worse and overall just kind of make things miserable for us. So companies like Sagewood are keeping us safe and keeping our data safe and making sure that we can still live the way we want to live.
For sure. And I mean, I definitely want to live the way I want to live. And sometimes that means doing the safe thing. We don't ride motorbikes without helmets. We don't drive cars without seatbelts. And we shouldn't have our data without a backup.
I agree.
Well, I guess that is the end of our webinar today. I want to thank everybody for stopping by, learning a little something new, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your week. And tomorrow is March, so happy March. If next time we do this, it'll be spring.
Excellent. Thanks so much for having me on today, Mike.
For sure. It's a pleasure as always. Have a super day.